Hello, hello. So I thought I would do a quick tutorial using polymer clay. I know we are resin suppliers then, but we also have lots of members who use different mediums and mix with resin and not mix with resin. And one of the things that we now sell in group, thanks to the lovely Rebecca Ramsey, is polymer clay. This is her clay. Not hers, I bought it from her. This is the clay that she sells. And what I'm going to do is, some of you may have seen, if you've seen the group, I created these overnight last night. This is a technique called Mokume Gane, which is done by imprinting with stamps or cutters and then slicing away the surface. A couple of people asked for a tutorial, so here we go, because I'm really keen to make some more because I liked it. So what I've done so far, because you don't need to see all the boring stuff, is I've got two blocks. I don't know if you can see that on camera up the top there. Yeah, that's 2 blocks of the white clay from Rebecca. One is rolled out on my machine goes from a 7, the thickest, down to a 1. That is rolled out on a 5 and that is rolled out on a 4, so they are actually the same size blocks, just obviously one is rolled a lot thinner than the other. You'll see why in a little while. The blue is also on a number 4, as is the black. This is not from Rebecca, this is Cernet Metallic, and the tiniest little amount, you'll see why. I just want to add a little bit of zing into it. And this is the green. Again, this is one of Rebecca's. I just want to show you how easy it is to use straight out the packet. A lot of clays need conditioning, and by that it's basically a term for squishing it and manipulating it. The warmth of your hand and the pressure helps it become more easy to work with, so more pliable. Some clay comes out really rock hard. Depends where it's been stored, how it's been stored, how old the clay is, and you'll find even within some brands that you might buy 2 at the same time, and some's just harder and tougher than other. It takes a lot of kneading, a lot of rolling, a lot of running through a pasta machine if you use one, which I do because my hands are a bit rubbish. But this, I mean, it's ready to go. You saw me take it out of the packet. So what I'm going to do now is just literally run that through my pasta machine, which is just off camera. Basically, it's nothing fancy. It's literally, this is a Jamie Oliver pasta machine that I bought from Facebook Marketplace for 15 quid. And I've just noticed that I've not cleaned it. So I'm going to end up with black dots all over it. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to clean the rest of the rollers off. I just rolled out the black and I forgot to clean it before I started recording. Doesn't really matter for what we're doing, but always good practice to clean your pasta machine. Yeah, so this pasta machine, basically I start it off in the thickest setting, which is number 7. See how thick that is. And take it down the setting, just as you would if you were making pasta. Not that I've ever made pasta in my life. And through number 6. Number 5, come on, get in there. It's just a lot easier to get a uniform sheet. It's not an absolute necessity to have a pasta machine if you work with polymer clay. A rolling pin will do just fine. These are acrylic rolling pins, which I believe Rebecca sells in the group. And that's it, just going through on number 4. Whoop. It's kind of stood together a bit as this come out of the pasta machine, but we're all okay. So what I'm aiming to do is to create a base. This is going to be my base piece. So this is the white that was rolled on a number 5, 5 or 6, I can't remember now. I know I should have written it down. So that's going to be my base. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, yes you can. I struggle to see, I'm not tall enough to see my my screen on my phone whilst I'm recording. So what I'm going to do is to add some colours onto that base, and that's literally, I'm just going to tear bits and put them on randomly. As simple as that. So I'm going to add the colour. You can do this with all kinds of scrap. These are the shavings that I took off the pieces that I made earlier, the one that I showed you at the beginning. So you can reuse those. Not the right colour palette for this, what I want to do. It wouldn't really go with the blue. Well, it probably would, but it's not the look that I wanted to go for. So I'm just literally just blobbing it on. Doesn't really matter what it looks like. It's going to go through the roller again anyway. It's going to be rolled out thinner, so these shapes will distort, just to make a nice. You can do it in groups. You'll see on the one that I did before, this side was mostly pink and then I've done areas of green. It's all going to come out quite random anyway, such is the nature of this method. It's quite organic in that it's, you know, it's not a uniform technique, which also means that's why I like it so much, that you can get away with things if they don't quite go to plan. Just noticed a bubble in there. I don't know if you can see that on camera. Little bubble in there, so I'm just going to get... Where did you go? Where did you go? There you are. Literally going to pierce that, because if you don't get rid of bubbles at this stage, there's another one there. They will only come out when you bake your product, and then you'll end up with some kind of chicken poxy kind of effect. So the colours I'm using are one of the blues and the green, and then with a few little tints of silver here and there. The black and the white are your contrast colours. The one I did before just had white on the top and bottom, and the darkness that was in that was just from the offcuts that I put on it. So just bear in mind that whatever colours you add on, some of it should show through. Not necessarily in any regular or uniform way. I just realised you probably can't see what I'm doing over there. I'm picking it from the other side. So I want to not necessarily cover every bit of white, but I don't want to leave any great big gaps. So it's almost a bit sort of mosaic or terrazzo effect. Terrazzo, I don't know how you say that word, never have. So I've tried this technique before with random results, to be honest. Some of them I've just scrunched up and put straight in the scrap bin. When I say scrap bin, I mean my scrap pile of clay to reuse, because one of the good things about it is there's lots of ways that you can use scrap clay. And that was really making patterns with things like these sort of tools where you've got ball ends or ziggy-zaggy bits on the end, pokey. So you can literally make any sort of... Just realised that the pot that I'm getting there out of is counterbalancing my phone. All kinds of anything you can make an imprint with, basically. It needs to be able to make a deepish imprint. You can use your cutters if you've got clay cutters or Play-Doh cutters, they all work. Just bear in mind that the type of plastic, if you're looking at buying cutters, the type of plastic that cutters are made from does matter, because of the contents of polymer clay, it will eat away at your cutters. But I guess if you clean them properly, I don't see you would have a problem. I'm fortunate that my hubby has a 3D printer, so I've actually printed some of my own cutters. But I get that everyone's not so lucky. Plastic cutters, metal cutters, it really doesn't matter which. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the token bits of silver. This doesn't stretch as much as this. This clay from Rebecca is absolutely gorgeous to work with. It's such a nice texture. This, way more expensive. I know it's a metallic, so it's going to be a little bit more than your average, you know, black or white. but it's really funny. It's a really odd texture. It's got no give in it whatsoever. I only want to use highlights of this. I don't want it to be silver all over. Let's put that the guy. So the idea is that you create a sandwich. You sandwich this colour slab, let's call it, in between white or white and black. You then do your, you stack it up, and I'll show you how to do all that. You roll it out so it becomes bigger. And then you make your imprints into your clay using whatever method you like. I'll be doing it with rubber stamps today. That's the technique that I'm now practicing, which works for me, having been, you know, as I'm sure a lot of us are, crafting for many years. I'm sure we've all perhaps done paper craft at some point in the past. I personally have drawerfuls of craft stamps that are just sitting there doing nothing, and I thought, haha, when I saw this version of this technique. There's no right or wrong in terms of placement of all of this. Just trying to sort of spread it evenly a little bit of overlap. Don't want it to look like I specifically, you know, created a pattern. It's very organic. I think I've used that word before, but it is the whole thing about this Mokume Gane is it is very haphazard, perhaps another way of putting it, which, as I said before, means you can get away with a lot of things, which suits me as a crafter because I'm very specific. I like things, if something's supposed to be a certain way, that's the way I want it to be. So I'm basically done with my colours, so I'm just going to fold those up. That one's obviously, it's got the black streaks in, but if I were just to mix, just to refold it, re-roll it, refold it, all it will do is just make that a slightly darker green. So what I'll do now is I'll pop that in my my spare sort of scrap drawer, which I've got down here. Whereas this one is as it should be, so that's going to go back in my just make sure I get that bubble out, in my drawer with my blocks of clay, as will the silver, because that's not tainted in any way. So I know basically they will match, a bit like if you mix paint. You know, if I was to mix a paint and pour something that had darkened slightly back into the original tub, I'd be pretty miffed. But these ones are exactly as they were when they came out of the packet. Okay, so we've got our, I'm just making sure there's no bubbles. We've got our slab with our dotted colours on it. What I'm going to do is just give my roller a bit of a wipe. Oh, there's my cloth. I'm not spraying anything on it, I'm just making sure it's clean, so it's not going to transfer any colours on there. From the middle out, just a firm press. Okay. Now, one of the key things that you do need to do this technique is a tissue blade. A tissue blade is extremely thin. I thought it was called a tissue blade because it was like tissue paper. It was as thin as tissue. It's not a tissue blade because it's what I use in surgery for slicing tissue. Oh, nice. But it is what we need. It's what I use to lift everything off my surface. I work on a glass worktop saver. You can work on a tile. Anything that's shiny is fabulous. As I have a selection of tiles that I use for baking. You can bake on paper, you can bake on parchment, you can bake on, when I say paper, I mean literally just El Cheapo printer paper. You can bake on cardboard, you can bake on a baking tray, and you can bake this in your normal oven. That's the good thing about polymer clay. There's no nastiness to it. Yes, I'd suggest you air your oven and ventilate it. I won't put your you know, your sausages in there straight after. So that's what we've got at the moment. back really doesn't matter what that looks like. If I wanted to neaten that off I could, but as I'm going to sandwich it in between other layers, no one will see it anyway. So that's where we're at right now. So I am going to, I'm just thinking here how I'm going to layer this up. So I've got my really thin white. I'm going to chop that in half, I think. Ooh. And I'm very, very gently just easing it over, just so it covers. Oh no, it ripped, never mind. Like I said, not the end of the world. Really isn't. It stuck to me. Okay, just pressing from the middle outwards just to discourage any bubbles. And you just and there's a load of bubbles underneath it. Okay. So as I've added that on, I want to keep my thickness at the thickest setting on my machine, which is a number 7 for me. So I'm just going to run that through and see how big it is, roughly the same length as my blade there. I'm just going to run it through. It should squish it out and elongate it a little bit. It also will get rid of any bubbles, push any bubbles out, hopefully. So you can see how much it's grown. Okay. I think I'm going to just shelve this for a minute, because the next stage is our stacking. So I'm going to again halve it. My blade's a bit bent, this one. I've got 2 of them, one's thicker than the other. Now, quick change of mind there. I'm going to put black layer in between, although I think it feels too thick. Just see if I can stretch it by hand without it disintegrating everywhere. Really only want the thinnest. I could do this on the machine, but when you get to a certain thickness or thinness, should I say, it just starts to tear, and that's all clays. It just becomes unworkable. So that's the black. I've added a black layer. And that'll just give any shapes, and if you can see them from chasing a bubble out to the edge, any shapes a little bit of definition. Where did that come from? That's not even a colour I've been using. I was using that this afternoon. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Not going to ruin it. So again, I'm popping that on top. From one end through to the other. Again, thinking bubbles. Just a light squish, just to make sure that they're all stuck together nicely. I'm going to even off my edges now, because putting it through the pasta machine with wonky edges just ends in disaster. So another small slab for this. Go there. Doesn't need to be massive. I'm going to use some smaller stamps and patterns. I'm just going to pop that back through. You can see the sandwich that is made of the colours. So you've got white, colour, white, black, white, colour, white. Pop that through. I'm going to pop it through with the long side. So I'm going to have to stand up to see that, make sure that you can see what I can see. And I'm sorry about the ring light, but I have to work on a shiny surface, otherwise it will just stick. So underneath you can see vaguely the colours, the blobs of colour coming through. I'm just going to run that through once more. I'm going to skeg it down to a number 6, which is the second thickest setting. Hopefully you'll see, so difficult in this light, that some of the colour, can't see as much on that side, so that's the side I use as the top. But you can see the blues and greens and silvers are all there underneath. So that's my piece. That's my piece. Trying to plop it right in the middle of that ring like this. I will save. And that will be used again for something else. There's literally no waste with polymer clay. So I've popped that right in the middle there for you to see. So the next stage is making our pattern. So I'm just going to stop there for a moment because it'd be easy for me to edit everything together. I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so now we're on to making our patterns in our piece, our clay. Let's get you out of the way. Don't need you anymore. We will need you. So to stop your cutters or stamps sticking in clay, we give it literally a spritz of water. Oh, excuse me. Tickle. It's literally just water I've put in a bottle just to make it easier and so don't knock it over. So just a spritz of water. Clay is basically an oil base. The polymer clay is basically an oil based product, so it doesn't mix with water. Which is good. So I'm going to use those this time. These are the Clignon stamps, and I just want small ones for this one. The one that I did earlier, I used big ones like this, and the big dandelion. And these are just the flower ones and sort of botanical ones. So that's just what I've got out. But actually, what I've pulled out are these cutters. I was going to do hearts, stars, and flowers, and a few circles. So I'm going to start pressing those shapes in no order at all. I just want it to look interesting. Okay, now I can see kind of where the blue colour is. That's blue, 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 silver, and then I can see the green. There's nothing in particular that I'm bothered about. You know, if I was doing leaves, I might want to specifically place them on the green, but I think I'm just going to go random. I'm just going to go random and we'll see how it comes out. That's one of the nice things about this. Is it is just you won't know what it's going to look like until it's all revealed anyway, because you won't know what colours you're going to get, because obviously the colours go deeper in the layers as well. So I'm going to do a couple of these flowers. So these won't stick anymore because they're very old, but I put it on an acrylic block. I actually use the acrylic blocks for shaping the clay. I put it on an acrylic block just because it's easier to press down. So in fact I can't do it because it's just going to fall off. So I'm literally just pressing nice and firmly and then peeling off. Just do another one over here. The problem is I broke my arm 2 years ago and I really don't have much pressure in my left arm, so things tend to be a little bit uneven if I just press. So I really have to give it some concentration, a bit of welly. So there's two of those. Let's have some dinky flow. These are push out cutters, sort of things that you would buy for decorating cakes. So let's have some of those. You can go all the way through if you want to. Doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you make sure your clay is all joined together again. And I'll show you that in a minute. So I've got two different sizes. So that's the, well, I've actually got three, but I thought we'd stop at this one's big enough. So really trying not to think about it too much. But by the same token, don't want to run out of space or things. So there's my little flowers. Let's have some hearts. Again, I've chosen two different sizes. I've got bigger ones. I'm feeling I need to put something here. So I'm going to put that flower in. Yes. I'll have a bit of that one hanging over the edge. So I'm pressing quite hard. As you can see, it's gone quite deep, almost through That's gone right down through to the dark, you know, it's quite deep and dark layer there. Although I have just squished that, noticed. So let's put that back in. So some hearts, random, turning it around, doing it all over the place. People do circles, they do mandala patterns, and I actually just thought as that's come out my mouth, I've got a really beautiful mandala stamp in the other room. I might be trying that tomorrow if I can get my other jobs done first, you know. Get the jobs done and out the way. Considering I'm not actually working at the moment, I've sure got enough to do. So I'm just filling in some of the blank spaces. And then I've got my little stars. Let's do the larger one first, or I can see there's space for the large one. So you can do classic patterns, you can do geometric patterns, you can literally make any pattern you want on here. And a smaller star, running out of space. Any pattern you can make it as busy or as sparse as you like. I tend to think the ones that I've seen, the ones that have sort of overlapping things look quite nice. Obviously a lot of floral things out there, your leaves, vines, that sort of thing. I think I'm going to leave that for patterns. I've also got some circle cutters. So these are what I use for making holes when you've got to put jump rings in, that sort of thing. But I thought these just literally just circles. Perhaps use them in the middle of the big flowers. Ah, the middle came out. That's what we don't need holes. So excuse the noise, but the best way to get that out of there is to blow, she says. It won't come out, typical. My pokey, not that one. It's too fat. Here's one I cleaned earlier. And that's not long enough. Cocktail stick it is then. Literally just taking that plug and put it back in its hole. So note to self, don't press quite so hard. Here we go. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Get back in there. Spotted a bauble. Spotted a bauble. And promptly lost it. There it is. So just adding a few little bits of interest. Not pressing particularly heavily. Just want to make sure I've done the flowers, because if I've done some and not others, it's going to look a bit peculiar. Not that one. And then we've got some bigger circles. You can use both ends of these cutters, although the plastic end's not really thick enough to cut, but it will make an indentation, which is all we need sometimes for this. Chances are I'm not going to use right to the edge of the slab. but better to have pattern there and not need it than think, oh no, there's a bare patch. When you come to decide, I mean, my thing is I make these pretty things and I have drawers full of them and I don't know what to do with them. Not just these Mokume Gane, but in general. So there we go, patterns done. Easy peasy. What I do want to make sure is you can see here, you can see my cutting board through that. Get off. I want to make sure that everything is brought back together. Obviously the mit's all been sort of spread out. So again, using an acrylic block, you can use your hands, you can use a blade. I'm just very gently going to work around all the edges just to make sure that everything, and obviously it's going to have to come back through to the middle as well. So obviously I'm pushing here and pushing inwards. Problem is it's stuck. You need a bigger tissue blade. So this is the big daddy. This one, the longer one. And it's stuck. Ah. Okay, we're not quite ready for lifting off yet. So I'm just literally using my fingers just to squish it in. I'm sure if some people who've been doing this for years saw this video, they'd be having kittens, but it is what it is, you know. I'm enjoying myself and hopefully it will come with a nice end result. What I don't want to do is roll it because that will flatten out the pattern entirely and we'll lose the overall effect that we're going for. So there we are, we've got pattern. I'm going to stop it there again and then I'm going to just turn it around so it's easy for me to see, bring it a little bit closer to me. And then we should do the carving. Woohoo! So there we are, all lifted and turned around. So this is the bit that takes a little bit of patience and a little bit of practice, she says with a big question mark. Just making sure everything's stuck together. So the idea is that we're going to scrape off some of the top layers. We're going to scrape off this thin white layer. We're going to scrape off some of the colour, some of the darker layers underneath, the black. Depending on how deep we go, it will depend on what we scrape off, obviously. So I've got, and this is the reason that my blade is bent, because you need to really hold the blade like that. So it's just skimming off the very top. This is really sharp. Okay, really sharp, really important that you have a nice sharp blade to do this job. So I'm going to start with this little flower here. Doesn't matter where you start, what you start with, if you just want to go over the whole thing. And I'm just very gently just going to take off the thinnest slithers to start with. A bit like having a haircut. You can always take more off, but you can't put it back on. Okay, I'm going to save these and put them in another bowl. I've not got another bowl. I needed to empty those out maybe before I started. But anyway, so I've taken off some of the white. I'm just going to see if it will zoom in for me. Nope, it won't. So take off some of the white and I've uncovered some green. And you can see the thickness of what I'm taking off. It really is very thin indeed. I'm going to have to get one nice sample. I shall show you. very, very thin. So I've almost got the blade flat. And just that slight bowed section. It's just literally skimming the top off. Really, there's barely anything there. So now this bit, I've got silver, I've got the green, blue, which are on one level, and the silver, and then I've gone down to the black, which was underneath that. If you remember, it's underneath another white there, in fact. So we have to just dig a little bit deeper down. But do you see how it changes? And you can actually use these bits. If they come off whole, which you sometimes do, I could just plonk that straight on the white and use it for my next one. I don't want it to have an awful lot of black. I want to keep it quite vibrant with these colours. That's why I've chosen something completely different to the one I did earlier, just to show you how different it can look. You don't have to go in one particular direction. You might sometimes have a pattern where you find you'll catch on certain things if you only go in one direction. So you turn your blade around or turn your piece around, whatever's easy for you. I can only do it towards me. No way I could control it going sort of like that. It just wouldn't work for me. I want to be able to see what I'm doing as well, so if I think I'm digging in a bit deep, I can change the angle. That's just going down to the black layer there, so I'm just going to get a little bit of black over here if I can. You can see I'm bitching and bobbing all over the place. You don't have to scrape it all. You can leave some of it as it is. A bit deep there. The thing is, there's no, oh, this is what it's supposed to look like. Which can, when you see things in groups, craft groups, social media, someone's created something, you have a go at it. If anything like me, if it doesn't turn out exactly like theirs did, I think it's a bit rubbish. I think I failed at it. But with this, no one can tell you what it was going to look like. Because it all depends on what you scrape off and what colours you put together, how deeply you press with your stamps or cutters. Okay, now earlier when I had this flower in the piece that I did earlier, and it's really quite tricky because it's got lots of tiny little ridges. So I'm just going to try and go in on one of those. I guess what you're trying to do is to sort of accentuate the pattern that you've put into it by letting it sort of pick up the colour. And back up here again. Oops. I think some of these shapes may be a little bit too simple and perhaps getting a bit lost in this. I'm looking a bit higgledy-piggledy. But that's okay. It's looking nice. Well, I think it is. I won't use this as one piece. This one I will cut up because I did the bigger prints on the one earlier, the bigger shapes, using the bigger rubber stamps. I felt that they were probably a bit too big just for me to select individual pieces to make into jewellery, because I'd have only had like half a flower and it would have just looked a bit odd. So I decided to make that one into a book cover, and with the offcuts I made a bookmark matching, which I thought was genius. Not only that, I'll show you in a moment what I did with the bookmark. There you go, that's where we did so we had white colour, white, black, and white colour, white. So I've gone through the white colour, white, top 3 layers to get down to the black. And you see, it's almost like a negative image. You don't have to use black and white. You can choose whatever colour combo you like. But I guess the thing is, obviously you need some things with a bit of contrast. Otherwise it would just look a little bit lost. I'm desperate to do this bit down here, but I know I can't attack it that way. It won't work, so I'm going to have to turn it around to do that. So I want to make sure I've just finished everything. On this. Keep going back up to this top corner, I don't know why. Obviously something I'm not, I feel needs more. I'm not an expert at this. I've been doing polymer clay for about 4 months. I've literally learned the way we all do nowadays from watching other people do it on YouTube and reading and pictures and other groups. So I'm sure there are people a lot more advanced than me, but it's nice to have something to start with. I'm just looking to see if I've kind of touched on everything. A little star there that's not Not doing much, not there. Never tried this before, but let's see how it goes. Oh, I've lost it. Oh, goodness sake, there it is. Just gonna try. Ooh. That's how disappeared it was. I'm probably not in the right place. I'll look back at the video and go, oh, it wasn't there. Look, a star. So you can, that works. There you go, trial and error. It would either work or it wouldn't, and it had 2 chances. So I think probably had a bit of a go at most of the shapes. So I'm going to turn it around. You can see my collection. Might actually just bundle that together and make something out of it. I'm just going to bring in the big tissue blade again, just because it's easier to lift and do the side to side shuffly thing. Just in case you want to see what the back looks like. That's the back. You can see obviously where those bits came through. I think there are still 1 or 2 holes, but we'll be okay by the time we finish. So this is what happens sometimes when you pick stuff up, if your blade doesn't quite get to the very bottom of it. But it's not a worry. Just be careful cleaning you. I'm going to turn it 180. Try again. Now, these little bits here, I really wanted to try and see if we can, oh no, too deep. Or is it? Sometimes you get little bits, just gently pushing the tiny little bits off. It's where it falls off your blade. That's better. You can see there's grey bits there. It's quite relaxing to do. Yes, it's a bit of a lengthy process. It's not an instant gratification situation here. But, you know, nice to do a bit of Zen crafting in. From time to time. Not too far into that black there that time. I was trying to get the circle to stand out, but do you know what? I think I'm going to leave that as it is. What I'm going to do, you see my manky brush coming into shot here. I've got an old brush, very old brush, which has been used for all sorts of things, which I keep in a pot of cornflour, cornstarch for any American viewers. Cornflour is really nice to stop things sticking, but it can leave a grainy appearance. So I've just tapped most of the cornflour off. It does still have some in it, obviously, and I'm just literally using this as a duster, just to dust any of the tiny particles that have fallen off my blade, just to dust them away. No, just lightly. I use a lot of cornflour. A lot of people are like, well, we shouldn't use cornflour, it dulls your clay. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with dull clay. I'll have resin. If I want shiny clay, I'll put resin on it. it works for me. It stops sticking, particularly doing some more intricate things. As I say, each to their own. It works for me. Some purists are like, oh, you shouldn't need to. Some people use isopropyl alcohol on clay. Again, you have people saying, no, you shouldn't need to do that. Your clay's conditioned properly. If you can get by without it, that's fine. Works for them, works for me. Each to their own. No rights, no wrong. This is craft. As long as it's not hurting anybody, let people crack on, I say. So that's my finished slab. So what I will do is I will get, oh, this is the one that I did earlier when I said I cut, I think I said I cut one out. So this is one with the bigger stamps. I literally just cut through, just cut out to a circle, and I thought it's quite funky. I might use it either as it is and make it into a pendant. I might use it as a motif on something. So, you know, on a plain, not necessarily white, but on a plain background. And I might edge it in gold. Who knows? Who knows what I'm going to do with it? But it's sat there on the corner board at the moment, ready to be wrapped up. I did say that I was going to say to you what I did with the bookmark, because after I cut this out, well, basically I've got a bookmark mould under here, which I placed over the top, just to see, over the top of my sheet, to see if it would fit, and it was literally millimetres to spare at the top and bottom, and I thought, well, that's obviously meant to be, so that decided for me. So I cut that off, and then I got some strips left over, so I've got a strip down this side with a wibbly wobbly edge and a straight edge, and likewise here, and then a few odd bits at the top and bottom, and it just jumped out at me bookmark. But obviously when you put something like this together, which has got higgledy-piggledy pattern and higgledy-piggledy colours, you're going to have join lines. So I overlapped them, pressed them down, and I thought, do you know what, let's make a feature of the join lines. And I cannot remember what the style is. It's something begins with a K, and it's meant to be styled like Japanese pottery that's been put back together. It's something like Kimi. I'm not even going to attempt to say it. So what I did was made a deep channel after I joined them together. Made a deep channel with a cocktail stick, and then filled it with. This is literally gold pen. So I pressed my gold pen down on some cellophane, got a thin stick, and just dragged it through. So I'm sure somebody will say what that technique is called. I might even find it before I edit the video and show you. So you can see what different looks you can get. Still a lot of white on here. But this is obviously more soft, subtle, subdued, oldie worldy kind of distressed sort of, I don't know what style you would call it. Whereas this is a bit more funky, a bit more pop, as in colour. I'm looking at it again now, just move that out of the way, and I think I need to uncover some more black, maybe here and here, just because it seems black, and then there's like this expanse here which doesn't have any. So I'll have a little go at that. What I'll do is I'll then decide what I'm going to do with it. It's probably too thin to use for jewellery as it is, so I'll probably pop it on some plain white just to give it a nice back. I'll cut it and I'll pop the finished pieces at the end of the video. Thanks for watching.